This is the Aftermarket Radio Network. It's your Weekly Blitz with Chris, keeping you in the game.
Are you ready to supercharge your auto repair business? This is Coach Chris Cotton from AutoFix Auto Shop Coaching. The Weekly Blitz is where industry expertise and business innovation collide, revving your engines for the week ahead. Every episode has game-changing insights, up-to-the-minute industry updates, and practical tips to shift your business into high gear. We're talking about stuff you didn't even know you didn't know, folks. If you haven't done so yet, please check out all of the other great podcasts on the Aftermarket Radio Network. I want to give a big thanks to Shop Marketing Pros for sponsoring the Weekly Blitz. Brian and Kim Walker, former shop owners, know the industry inside out. They don't do copy and paste marketing. What they do is they create unique strategies for each of their auto repair shop clients. They offer incredible marketing that gets results, helping your clients and future employees to know, like, and trust you. I want you to go join their Auto Repair Marketing Mastermind Facebook group today. Shop Marketing Pros is top-tier marketing for top-tier shops. Visit shopmarketingpros.com/Chris. So today I wanted to talk about the election. If we've timed this out correctly, this coming Tuesday, we'll know who our future president is. And so I wanted to talk about election 2024 and what it means for auto repair shop owners, or what I think it means for auto repair shop owners. So there's a lot of talk about what's at stake. I'm sure you're seeing and hearing predictions of change, some cases, dire outcomes, no matter who wins the White House. But from my experience as a 51-year-old man, I can tell you this: no matter how big the headlines are or how wild the forecast gets, it's never quite as good as they say, and it's also never as bad either. In the end, most of us keep right on chugging, doing what we do best, and finding ways to make it work, right? Let's break down a few things to keep in mind as we look at this election season, focus on the potential impact in our industry. When I think about the rest of the year and into 2025, what are some of the pros and cons for auto repair? Each election brings a new set of promises and policies that impact small businesses, and this year is going to be no exception. Both parties are running with key themes, one side focusing on small business support, the other on workforce development and training initiatives. Here's a quick thought on some of the pros and cons, as we think about these proposals. One of the pros is support for small business. I'm all for that. So both major candidates are talking about small business support, though in different ways. Small business tax credits, incentives for hiring, and even potential health insurance reforms for small business owners are all on the table. This kind of support could be a big relief in terms of our bottom line, giving us a bit more financial breathing room if it comes to be. Next, focus on workforce development. Our industry's greatest challenge right now continues to be the quote-unquote tech shortage. While one side may emphasize direct financial support, the other might push for vocational training programs. These could encourage more young talent to consider auto repair as a long-term career option. Either way, any support for workforce development is something our industry desperately needs. Another pro is both candidates have touched on infrastructure spending, which impacts vehicle maintenance needs. When there's more spending on infrastructure, whether it's rebuilding roads or bridges, we see a rise in the wear and tear of vehicles on the road. Wear and tear is good news for us as more people will need repairs. Also, the average age of the vehicle just keeps going up and up and up. I think it in part a lot to do with just the price, seeing how outrageous the price on cars are nowadays. So if we think about the cons, depending on who wins, we could see new environmental or business regulations that are going to impact how we do business. Things like emissions or safety standards could change, leading to potential upgrades or modifications in the services we offer or the equipment we use. Any kind of added regulatory costs can hit hard, especially for smaller shops that may not have the budget to adapt quickly. I'm just going to make sure and tell you, be nimble, look out what's happening nationally, but also in your state and your counties, and see what's going on. That takes us to number 2, minimum wage and labor laws. There's potential for an increase in the minimum wage and changes to labor laws. And while I agree a livable wage is essential, higher wage requirements can pinch a shop's budget if they're not accompanied by other forms of financial relief or productivity gains. Not just productivity gains, we're talking about, do you know what your effective labor rate is? Do you know how to figure that? If not, then why? Next is, when was the last time you looked at your labor rate based on what you're paying your employees? Here lately with our shops, we've been doing quarterly, if not biannual labor rate increases. So if you haven't changed your labor rate in a year or so, now's the time to do that. But look at your minimum wage labor requirements and things like that. You can go to Jimmy John's and get $20 an hour making a sandwich and be in a air conditioned building and get meals for free and whatever else they do. So we need to make it enticing for people to come to our shops and work. If you're out there paying a entry level tech $12 an hour, then you are way, way, way off the mark. Next on the cons, we have supply chain and tariffs. The past few years have shown how fragile our supply chain can be. We just had the threat of a strike, and then they walked that back really, really quickly. I think because of the election, who knows who's pulling the strings behind the curtain. Depending on the international trade policies after the election, we could see tariffs or other restrictions that might affect parts pricing and availability. And we don't need more struggles with either one of those. Higher parts cost means slimmer margins unless we can raise prices. And that's a delicate balance when we're trying to keep customer happy, right? I will say one thing. If you're not using an inflation adjusted matrix, or if you're using the same parts matrix you were using 2, even 3 years ago, your parts margin has started to erode. And if you're looking at your parts margin and being like, hey, why am I making 3% less margin this year than I made the year before that? That's probably why. You need to take a look at that as well. I know in our shop, we're averaging right at 55% parts margin right now, and we're holding to that, plus what little bit we were getting on the backside. So if we're thinking about the election, what could happen? Regardless of who wins, the landscape's going to shift. Even if Harris wins, the landscape's going to shift. As a shop owner, your business success was always going to depend more on your day-to-day operations and your ability as an owner to pivot than any one law or policy or president. If we've learned anything from the last few years, it's that the ability to adapt is our greatest asset. The world's going to throw us a curveball here and there, but a well-run shop with a loyal customer base is resilient to change. Again, there's a couple things to think about and prepare for. Expect change in workforce policy. Prepare for possible adjustments in minimum wage and labor law compliance. Use this as a chance to review how efficiently your shop is operating. Automation, technology, skilled training can help you get the most of every dollar you spend on labor. You need to budget for increased costs. If you haven't looked at 2025 and thought about how things are going to change and prices are going to change, you need to do that now. It's when this comes out, we're in the first full week of November. You've got time to make that budget for next year. Also, Shop Marketing Pros, Kim would tell you, if you haven't done your marketing calendar for next year, now's the time. Actually, you're a little bit behind, but if we start on it now, then we'll be good. Focus on community and customer loyalty. In times of change, people stick with what and who they trust. If you're not building strong community ties and reinforcing customer loyalty, we need to make sure that we're top of mind. And even if the economic picture shifts, your personal connection with customers will become a major asset. Wrapping this up and thinking about it, I often tell shop owners when they're trying to fire somebody or whatever, it's never as bad as you make it out in your mind. And I want you to remember this is the same thing here. I've been through quite a few elections at this point. I've seen some big impacts, smaller impacts. But one thing I know, it's never the worst case scenario, right? I've been in the industry a long time. I've seen some wild predictions about what would happen after elections. And I'm here to tell you, it's almost never the worst case scenario that people fear. There may be challenges, but we're all small business owners and we know how to handle challenges. That's what we do. That's what we're doing every day. The important thing is to keep a steady hand and remember that we're going to weather the changes that come our way, no matter what it is. I want you to remember, though, at AutoFix Auto Shop Coaching, we're here to help you navigate this and every season of uncertainty along with it. Election years can feel like a big deal, but by focusing on what we can control and preparing for what's within our reach, we keep moving forward, and so do our businesses. One thing I would say is I don't think that the election up to this date has had as big an impact as a lot of us thought we would. A couple of people have been slow, but for the most part, well, honestly, to back up, I think the first 2 weeks of September, the whole country was slow, and I think that's all Google's fault. And there's probably a podcast in there talking about that and what they're doing. I'm not a big fan of Google for that reason, but for right now, for the most part, that's what we got. Anyway, stay calm, stay informed, keep pushing forward, one repair job at a time. Thanks to all our incredible listeners. Your passion and drive motivate us to deliver top-notch content. A big shout out to our sponsor, Shop Marketing Pros. If your shop is the best in town, but your marketing isn't cutting it, it's time for a change. Shop Marketing Pros understands your business and ensures your shop stands out where quality meets visibility. Shop Marketing Pros ensures your auto repair shop stands out in a crowded market. Thanks for tuning into the Weekly Blitz. Remember, it's time to rise, grind, and keep your mindset positive. Until next time, this is Coach Chris Cotton signing off. Have a great day, everybody.
You've been listening to the Weekly Blitz with Coach Chris Cotton on the AftermarketRadioNetwork.com. Follow Chris on your favorite podcast listening app. Let him know what you'd like him to cover. His email is in the show notes. Chris is all for advancing the aftermarket.